Okay, what's going on, everybody? So for today, for this video, what we're going to do is we're going to be taking a look at a very unique camera that I have. It's an older camera, not that old, like film camera wise, but it is a point and shoot camera, digital, and it is the Nikon, I'll show you right here, CoolPix A. So I'm hoping that you can have a good look at the camera itself. So this is a single focus distance camera. It is a APS-C size sensor with a 18.5 millimeter f2.8 lens. Let's see if I can zoom in right there. And it doesn't have any numbers, so it's just called the CoolPix A. And it's very similar to like shooting with a Ricoh GR or shooting with a Fuji X100. I mean, obviously those cameras have different features to them that the Nikon does not, but yeah, this is one that I don't see a whole lot of reviews on YouTube about. So anyway, let me switch it on, and you can see the lens extends out, and I believe with the 1.5 crop factor, I'm thinking that you're like at around 28 millimeter focus distance. It does have, let me switch it off for a second. It does have a little ring that you can take off, so you can attach like a lens hood or a neutral density filter. So it does have that. I don't have any of those adapters. You can see that it is a crop sensor. It is because you'll see the little DX symbol here, and this sensor is the same sensor that you would find in a Nikon D7000. So let me take you on a quick kind of overview. So you have auto, program, shutter speed, aperture priority, manual, and then you have two user modes and then scene mode. You have your on and off toggle switch right here, as well as a little focus, or not focus, but like a control wheel that you have here. You have a play button, menu, you have another dial or wheel here, and an OK button, info and trash, exposure compensation, ISO, and then a couple of different zooming or function keys. It does have a little pop-up flash right here. It does not have a viewfinder, so you don't have an actual viewfinder. You just have the LCD, and the LCD is not touchscreen. So you do have another function button here at the front that you can program to, you know, it could be anything from like changing your image quality size. Mine has seen some tough times. So I had a little rubber grip right here that fell off, which was to me not that big of a deal. But the front rubber grip, this is pretty good to hold it. So let me start it up right here. So right now I'm in auto. Downside to this camera is that unlike the Ricoh GR and the Fuji X100, which have a lot of controls right on the body itself, the Nikon CoolPix A does not really have that. So a lot of things are hidden behind the menus. So for instance, if you want to switch ISO, you can hold the ISO button and use the control wheel to change it. So not as quick. You get used to it, but not as quick as some other cameras. Especially if you're trying to do video mode and all that. I'm not going to really focus on that here, but like if you do want to make some other changes, you'll have to go into, well, right now I'm in auto, but if I decide to go into manual mode, um, by pressing the information or the I key. Then from here I can go and switch out different settings in the camera. So I do want to put some image samples out here so that you can see how it performs. You can take a look at what the image quality is like on this little camera. They're kind of hard to find, so they're not the easiest cameras to locate because it uses the LCD screen as your way of viewing and composing shots. It does tend to wear out the battery quite quickly. So depending on how frugal you are with your screen, I did purchase 2 other batteries for this camera, and it was not too expensive. On the sides, I forgot to mention, so it does have a macro mode. It's not a very close macro mode. I think it's 0.3 meters, if I'm not mistaken. So you do have to stand at a good distance away. So this is not really a macro camera, especially for the sensor size. It does have a little flap here for GPS as well as a USB connector. I have not used either one of those. And then on this right hand side, it does have a mini HDMI connector so that you can plug it into another screen. Here's where the battery is located, and it's just held on by this latch, and it has a slot for SD cards. I'm not exactly sure what the maximum size is for this sort of camera, but right now I'm just running a 16 gigabyte SD card, and yeah, it does okay. So yeah, so that's, oh yes, and I forgot, so big thing with this, it does have a little focus wheel, so when you are manually focusing, you can use the little focus wheel to focus on subjects. It's not focused by wire, I think it's just digital focus. I could be wrong on that, but having that, I use that quite a bit at first, and then now I haven't really used it anymore. So I kind of lost the will to do that. Just I don't really have a need to do it. Autofocus is a little slow for, it's not bad for, this age of a camera. You can kind of see how quickly it takes photos. It's kind of hard to do with me having doing it through 2 screens. So you can see I don't know how well it's going to show up in video, but I'll put the actual stills in video form so you can kind of see what they look like. I took some photos of my pets, did some photos in low light, so you can kind of take a look at it. Anyway, so I'm not going to ramble on. Thanks for taking a look, and check out the rest of the sample photos. Thanks for watching. I got other camera reviews that I will be doing, and so I hope you continue watching. See you later. Peace. Okay, so here I am in Lightroom and looking at some of the photos from the Nikon CoolPix A. So we have a few different images, some more exciting than others. So at first, I had actually taken this camera with me to Washington, D.C., and my wife and I went to go visit the area there, and I used the Nikon CoolPix A to take quite a few different photos. So these are all shot in JPEG, and I have to admit I didn't clean it out that well. So if you see some smudging, that is the lens. As I said, the CoolPix A is it does have a very sharp lens, so imperfections, especially when shooting at a high f-stop, will come up. So, but that's besides the point. What we're looking at here is the actual level of detail within the photo, and so you can see even at its 16 megapixel compared to cameras nowadays, the high megapixel count even phones have. It is sharp. Um, and then a big thing to check with cameras is how sharp are they in the corners. Um, there's a little bit less sharpness in the corners, but not too much. So you can see right here, here's a little bit of a macro imaging. Like I said, this camera does not do well with macro shots, so you can't really get that close, but because of the high resolution and the larger sensor size, you're able to get some pretty good detail out of photos. And I haven't touched up any of these photos. This one was shot at ISO 100 at f8 and 1/400th of a second. You can see right here. Here's some text. This is shot at f9, 1/80th of a second. Let's just kind of check out the detail there. There is some noise. I mean, again, this is not a new camera, so the sensor is older, so it's not as sharp and doesn't have as much noise reduction as the new sensors do. But what I do want to show you is the raw performance on this camera. So I'm going to speed pass through here so I can kind of show you what is the raw performance of this camera. So, whoop, that one came out blurry. Here we go. So this is shot in RAW, and this one was at f2.8, ISO 100, 1/4 of a second, handheld. So not the best shot there. Here it is in RAW. Some photos of me driving by. So here's one area where a lot of these older cameras will struggle is in the dynamic range. So basically in the shadows, but because we're working with a RAW file, we're able to pull up some of these shadows quite a bit more. So you can see you can kind of really rescue a photo. I'm just editing it very quickly, not in a very good way, but you can kind of see what you're able to play with and come up with. So yeah, this one, if you can't see it on the screen, it is ISO 100 f 7.1 1/1000th of a second. So here's like another sunset photo. You can kind of play around with it. It's a little too yellow. Depends on kind of what the look you're going for. Here's some lower light shots inside the theater. This is interesting that it was able to capture this. I was kind of curious to see what the low light performance was. So yeah, a lot of digital noise. This was at ISO 200, 1/8 of a second. Too slow for me to shoot handheld. So this is at f4 ISO 1600, 1/60th of a second. So this is a little bit better as far as like shutter speed is concerned. You can see the noise, but honestly, I mean, for an older camera, it's not too bad. Clearly, you have to put a little bit more work into it to get photos, but it's a pretty fun camera to shoot with. Here's at nighttime. So this was pretty dark. Really, yeah, like street lamp and the lights from the theater. But it was at 1/15 of a second at wide open at f2.8 ISO 400. You can see, kind of missed the focus there. But I mean, if you're just posting things online, yeah, it's not too bad. And then here's low light, not extreme low light, so you can kind of see the image quality at a low light setting. So this is at f3.2, ISO 400, 1/25 of a second. You can see the text is pretty visible. And again, these are all in RAW, so aside from the ones you saw me working on, I haven't done any sort of changes to any of these files. So, you know, there's a lot of flexibility that you can go through and make changes with. And here's a little macro shot. Now it was kind of low light here, and I think I had the cable way too close. But yeah, you can see right there. This is some pictures that I took in the video. And so yeah, that's mainly it. It's a neat little camera. I would say that if you are able to take one in, I would go ahead and get it and give it a try. You can see here, here's some photos that I also took in RAW. Just some landscape photos, so you can kind of see what what you can kind of work with as far as the dynamic range. That's too much. We got the highlights. So you can see you're not getting like the most amazing photo quality. It's still pretty good, but for street shooting, this is where it really shines. When you're out and about, having a little camera like this with you is just wonderful. No one really pays attention to you having it. You're able to, like, here's a really good one. This is in JPEG, and this was at ISO 100, f8, and 1/400th of a second. So the JPEGs have a little bit of wiggle room, not as much as the RAW files do, but yeah, I could sit here and play with these things, but you can see the image quality is there. You just kind of have to play with it a little bit. All right, well, hope you enjoyed this video. I will be doing some other camera reviews. I have some other pretty cool digicams and older digital cameras and film cameras that sometimes don't get enough love. And hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. See ya.